Get this, you jump in your car, drive 3 kilometers down the road to grab some groceries, and then drive 3 kilometers right back to your exact same driveway. You look down and your odometer clearly says you traveled a total of 6 kilometers. But what if I told you that, according to the strict laws of physics, your average velocity for that entire trip was exactly 0?
Think about that for a second. How is that mathematically possible? How can you move your car, physically cover distance, have time tick by, but end up with an average velocity that is entirely non-existent? This right here is known as the zero velocity paradox, and honestly, it trips up students all the time.
But don't worry, by the end of this explainer, you're going to completely understand the core concepts of motion, the exact formulas behind them, and how to easily solve this exact paradox step by step. We're going to separate everyday casual language from actual rigorous physics. Before we can measure how fast something moves, we need to agree on what we're measuring against. And in physics, time is simply defined as change. It's the interval over which a physical change actually occurs. Think about it. Without a physical change happening, like a ticking clock mechanism, a pendulum swinging back and forth, or the sun moving across the sky, it's completely impossible to even know that time has passed. Time literally requires change. Now, when we talk about motion, we care specifically about elapsed time. Elapsed time, which we write using the Greek letter delta and a lowercase t, is just the difference between your ending time and your beginning time. What's cool about this is how we apply it in the real world. We almost always set that beginning time to exactly 0, just like hitting start on a stopwatch at the very beginning of a race. It makes the math so much cleaner for all our calculations.
Okay, now that we've got time down, let's look at 2 words people constantly mix up in everyday conversation: speed and velocity. In physics, these are distinctly different concepts. On one hand, speed is a scalar. That's a fancy way of saying it's just a magnitude, a number. It has absolutely no direction attached to it. But velocity? Velocity is a vector. This fundamentally requires a specific direction. You can't just say your velocity is 60 kilometers per hour. To be accurate, you have to say 60 kilometers per hour north.
So how do we actually calculate this? To find average velocity, you need 3 pieces of information. Step 1, find your change in position, which is officially called displacement. Step 2, find your elapsed time, that delta t we just talked about. And step 3, simply divide that displacement by the time, delta x over delta t. Now, wait, this is a really important question that always comes up. Can your velocity ever be a negative number? Since speed is just how fast you're going, like 50 miles per hour, it's obviously always positive. But what about velocity, since we just learned it's a vector that absolutely needs a direction?
The answer is a resounding yes. Let's use a real-life analogy. Imagine you're a passenger on a flying airplane. The plane is facing forward, so let's call that the positive direction. But you need to use the restroom, so you get up and walk 4 meters toward the back of the plane. That is a displacement of -4 meters. If it takes you 5 seconds to walk that distance, you divide -4 by 5, and your average velocity is exactly -0.8 meters per second. That negative sign doesn't mean you're moving slower than 0. It just tells us your direction is toward the rear of the plane. All right, let's zoom in a bit. We also need to clearly distinguish between average values and instantaneous values. Average looks at the whole trip from the very beginning to the very end. It doesn't care if you stopped for gas, or paused at a red light, or even ran backwards for a minute. But instantaneous, that's a tiny, infinitesimally small snapshot of time. It's a specific split-second instant. Let's connect this to real life using the tools you probably have in your car right now. Your car speedometer? That measures instantaneous speed. If a police officer clocks you with a radar gun, they are checking your instantaneous speed at that exact split-second instant. They definitely do not care about your average over the whole trip. But your GPS app on your phone? When it calculates your estimated time of arrival, it relies heavily on average velocity, predicting your total displacement over the total elapsed time of your entire journey.
And just to lock down exactly what's showing on that dashboard, let's define instantaneous speed. It's the absolute magnitude of your instantaneous velocity, completely ignoring the direction. Whether you are driving 40 kilometers per hour due north or 40 kilometers per hour in reverse, your instantaneous speed at that exact moment is exactly the same, just 40.
Okay, we have all the puzzle pieces. Let's bring all these concepts together to finally solve our opening paradox. Remember our quick trip to the store? Let's look at the actual data. You drive to the store, which is 3 kilometers away. You return home, another 3 kilometers. And let's say the total elapsed time for this entire round trip is 0.5 hours, or 30 minutes. First, let's calculate the average speed of your car. This is straightforward. We take the total distance traveled, which is 6 kilometers, and divide it by the total elapsed time, half an hour. 6 divided by 0.5 gives us an average speed of 12 kilometers per hour. Your odometer proves you traveled, and your average speed reflects that perfectly.
But here comes the twist. What is your total displacement for this round trip? I want you to really think back to the vector definition we covered earlier. Displacement does not care about the total ground you covered. It only measures the net change in position from your exact starting point to your exact ending point.
And here is the big trick. Because you parked your car in the exact same driveway you've left from, your net change in position is exactly 0. You haven't actually gone anywhere relative to your starting line. Your initial position and your final position are completely identical.
And this brilliantly illustrates the solution to our paradox. Let's step through the final math. Step 1, displacement is 0 kilometers. Step 2, time is 0.5 hours. Step 3, average velocity equals displacement divided by time. 0 divided by 0.5 is, exactly, 0 kilometers per hour. Because average velocity is a vector, relying purely on displacement, any round trip that ends exactly where it started will always have an average velocity of 0. The paradox is officially solved.
Before we wrap up, let's summarize the key points so you have this totally locked in. Average speed is a scalar quantity, calculated by total distance over time. Meanwhile, average velocity is a vector quantity, calculated by displacement over time. Take a mental snapshot of this. Knowing the fundamental difference between these two rows is exactly what you need to remember to ace your physics exams.
Now, I want to leave you with one final massive-scale thought experiment based on everything we learned today. The Earth travels hundreds of millions of kilometers through space at an absolutely incredible speed. But if the Earth completely orbits the Sun and returns to its exact starting point every single year, what is its average velocity over that year? Think about the displacement. I'll let you ponder that one. Keep exploring physics, keep asking the big questions, and I'll catch you in the next